Please pray with me. Lord, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Tell me what you want me to say, and please keep me out of your way. Please be seated. Paul's letter to the Corinthians today and our gospel reading from Mark are both full of hope. And boy, do we Christians need that, right? Paul is writing to the church in Corinth at a time when Christianity wasn't really well known. It really wouldn't be until the 2nd century, long after Paul's death, that Christians would be acknowledged or recognized as much of a community. There was persecution, of course. There always is with humanity. And as we know, the Jewish leadership and the Romans wanted to stamp out these new Christians because, well, they threatened the order of things. And Paul commends the Christians with their long list of troubles. Afflictions, he says, hardships, calamities, beatings, imprisonments, riots, labors, sleepless nights, and hunger. Wow, that is a long list of hardships indeed. But that list sounds both ancient and modern all at the same time, doesn't it? How many of us have had sleepless nights or hunger? And in the Gospel of Mark, well, we have the story of Jesus and his disciples heading out on a journey on the Sea of Galilee. Most of Jesus' ministry had been on the western side, or the Jewish side, of that great lake. And now it was time to take his message to the Gentile side, prefiguring what the Jewish disciples would be doing by taking their message after Jesus was gone out into the Gentile world. This large lake is 680 feet below sea level, surrounded by steep hills. Winds blowing across the land suddenly intensify as they close in on this sea, often causing violent and unexpected storms. Now, many of the disciples, as you know, were seasoned fishermen who had spent their lives fishing on this lake, and they knew about these bad storms and just how bad they could be, and that their lives could be in peril. Jesus is exhausted. His ministry is taking so much from him. And here he shows his humanity. He falls deeply asleep, oh so fast, in the bow of this boat. And then the storm comes. The seasoned fishermen amongst them no doubt work hard to steady the boat. But as the storm rages on, panic begins to swell up inside of them, and they lose sight of the land and even of their own skills. They wake Jesus up and they ask him, "Do you not care that we are perishing?" Again, wow. Have you ever said that to Jesus? Or at least thought it? Or perhaps of God? Do you not care, God, that, and fill in the blank? Do you not care that we are separating children from their parents at the border? Do you not care that our spouse is addicted to alcohol and not getting treatment? Do you not care that I lost my job and now my home is in peril? Do you not care that my marriage is unhappy and I don't think we can stay together? Do you not care that my child is sick and might die? These and so many like them are like the original questions from the disciples that day in that boat. And they are not accusations. They are more like an anguished prayer, like cry to Jesus, who now assumes the role of God before these disciples. The disciples seem to assume that Jesus can do something about the storm, but he's sleeping rather than acting. Do you feel that way sometimes? That God seems to be sleeping on the job, or at least ignoring your personal problem? I bet you do. I have. The "don't you care" statement is universal and is a suffering humanity's challenge to God. But Jesus doesn't let it go unanswered. Oh no, he turns right around and he asks his own question. Why are you afraid? Why indeed? As believers, we know that God created us, has made us holy, and has always protected us. Like you, many storms have suddenly blown up in my own life, some because of my own lapse of good judgment, and some because of the actions of others, and some simply because we live in an imperfect world. And I used to pray all the time for God to take away the storm of the moment from me. And then I heard a beautiful story on 60 Minutes. Yes, 60 Minutes, the TV show. They did an interview with the then brand new Bishop of New Hampshire, Gene Robinson. Gene Robinson was the first openly gay ordained bishop in the Episcopal Church in the United States, and he was ordained and installed as bishop in 2003. It created a huge storm amongst Episcopalians and Christians that a person of his orientation would be allowed to lead an entire diocese. It was so bad that at his installation, he had to wear a bulletproof vest under all of his robes because of the death threats from Christians, because of who he chose to love. He was being interviewed, and he seemed so serene as he described the circus going on around him and the steps leading up to his being selected. And the reporter asked him, "How are you getting through this?" And he said something that has stuck with me to this day. He said, "Sometimes God calms the storm, and sometimes he calms the child." And before me was a man in the midst of the worst storm imaginable, with his life being threatened by fellow Christians. And yet, he seemed so calm. And from that day forward, I prayed that come what may, that God would calm the storm, or that God would calm my spirit. And oh, what a difference that prayer has made in my life, folks. I commend it to you. Storms may come and storms may go. But remember, folks, God is always with you. May he calm your storms, or may he calm your spirit so you can weather them. Amen.